So all I should have to do is loosen these. And then the foot should slide. I have to loosen them a little bit more than that, Carey. Oh yeah, that one was still. There we go. So set that aside. And then we want the side with the fans. I think, wait, is that the side I want? Is it the other side? No, I think it's this side. Either way, we could take both sides off, if that matters. Take out that screw. Got this screw. I went looking on YouTube to see if somebody had done a video on this so I could see how it's done. As far as I can tell, nobody has done this who's reviewed this unit. There's only like 2 other people that have reviewed this as far as I know. And they're all, of course, polished, edited videos. They're not live showing you the real struggles. Sarge Tech said that new Sony camera is super sharp. That's what I want to hear. Okay, so question is, how do we get to the RAM and the storage on this? I can see right down there, I can see the RAM. So the question is, oh, and I can see the memory under here. You know what? This may not be as bad. We got to remember that in the far corners, there's no screw. Pay attention to that. In these far corners, there's no screw except on that corner closest to the camera. Isn't that weird? And that would be the top of the unit here. So just a note to self, I don't really know how important that is, but I like to put it back the way I take it apart, I like to put it back the same way. When you put these fan screws back in, do not over tighten them. All right, this is my first time opening this, so let's see what it does. Okay, first things first. We've got, this is weird, we've got a wire. I would almost guess that was an antenna coming off the Wi-Fi. What does that say? Can you read that? Does that say Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's our Wi-Fi antenna that's soldered. Well, the antenna is this piece, and then that piece is usually glued down inside the case. They've attached it to the fan, which you'd think wouldn't be good with the motor that close, but can you see down in here? See this? So here's the trick. I already see what the trick is now. Go ahead and back the camera away a little bit. Take out these 3. I was kind of intimidated when I saw this because it looked like it was pretty hard to get at, but now that I'm into it, it's actually relatively straightforward once you know what to look for. My thanks to the other content creators for making me figure this out on my own. Well, that one, the cable goes the opposite direction. It's important we keep these oriented the same way too. Oh, and it looks like another antenna wire there. Interesting. So I don't need to push that aside, but if you look right here, you'll see our M.2 drive is underneath this. And if we get this bar out of the way, then we'll also have full access to our RAM here as well. So that's just these 2 screws. This one here. Planet Cryos with a $2 super chat says, take care, all have to go. Hey man, it's just getting good. All right, well, we'll see you soon, Planet Cryos. Thank you for contributing to the channel as always. Now, if I take this support bar out, that reveals 2 more screws. This screwdriver is not going to be able to bite into those because they're too shallow. I'm going to need a little jeweler's driver for that one. See, this ought to be happy. You know what I should do? Where did I put the 2 screws I just took out? I think it was those 2. These 2 are the ones that went onto the cover. These are the ones that go into the fan. Yeah, these are different screws. See, we don't want to mix them up. These are different because the heads are different. So you take that one out. Keep those on this side. This isn't very magnetized. Oops. Get no screws or get them all. Can't get just one. All right, so now this piece, and this contains all of our I/O. So if you look at the front, this is the front, okay? This is our USB ports and headphone, microphone jack. That's all going, you know, bring the camera back over here into this circuit board. That's our I/O board there. We should be able to pull these connections away from their holes and then just hang this over the side. Now, all of a sudden, it's not so intimidating to get to our RAM and our storage. If you look right here, here's our RAM. There's 1. There's 2. Now, what is this, DDR4? Yes, this is DDR4. Can you focus in on that? You can see that's the way MinisForum ships it. If you order one that's not a bare bones unit, I'm not even sure they offered this one in a bare bones unit. Now I said it out loud. Let's see, what do I have? DDR4. Okay, so I have got this RAM. By the way, this RAM is on sale for $89.99 at Amazon today. Each stick is 32 gigs. That's as big as you can get. So 2 of that is a total of 64 gig. It's at 3200 speed. And let's open this up. Might make a note to myself to edit this piece out and upload it as its own little video on how to upgrade the RAM and storage on this particular model. You guys as members, well, you get to see it while it's happening. So that's one side of our new RAM, and that's what the other side looks like. See here, if we flip it over, Zeus. And the other RAM, I will put that back in this package to keep it safe. And we will use that in something else eventually. We'll upgrade something. You know where this would be good? Maybe throw it in one of the NASs. You know? Maybe the Asus stored NAS could use a little extra RAM. You're not a fan of that Asus stored NAS.
No.
She doesn't like it. Thinks it's flaky, but I think it's because I don't leave it plugged in. So I think when I boot it up, I think it's doing updates, and she's like, "Why is this thing disconnecting?" And I'm like, I think it's doing an update. All right, let's put the RAM in now. So we'll do our RAM upgrade and get this out of the way. I like that the RAM is going to go in with this. The Zeus logo is facing upward, even though we're going to end up covering it up anyway. The short-lived win. Got to get the fan cable out of my way. It is a difficult machine to upgrade as far as upgrades go from other mini PCs. This isn't the toughest one I've ever done, but it's definitely not the easiest one. This little flap just keeps covering up my view here. Make sure that's fully seated into the socket and just push down. And then we'll repeat that process with the other RAM module here. Slide that in. Make sure it's fully seated, push down, locks in place. That little cover goes back, and this little power connector for the fan can go back on. I could have worked around it, but you know, it's just a push on, push off connector. There's not even any clip you have to worry about. Now, coming back over, so this is being held in place, this cable. So be careful, don't yank on this too hard because you could break the cable free. Now, if you look down here, this is our M.2 drive. And beside it is our graphics card. I don't know how well you can see it, but you can see there's something socketed right lengthwise right there. And this heatsink is on top of the graphics card. The other heatsink is on top of the CPU. And our graphics card is socketed. I don't know if you can see the socket, but it's right here. That's the socket. And if you look just above it, you'll see the gold fingers for the graphics card that's in there. Yeah. See the shiny part? Anyway, that's why there's not room for a second M.2 in here. And I just dropped the screw. Definitely going to want that screw. And that's why a magnetized screwdriver is so critical when you're working on computers in the modern era. Now, you'll notice this M.2 drive has a heatsink on it. This was what, 512, right?
Yeah, I think so.
But the heatsink is just held on with rubber bands. You could literally take this heatsink right off and put it onto any other M.2 drive you wanted to. It's not specific to a specific storage drive. Now that thing's supposed to be Gen 4, isn't it? And you need something that's got to have capacity, yeah? Well, shoot. What can we use? Let me think. Looking at my parts cabinet, I have some Western Digitals that are 4 terabyte Western Digital Black, but they don't have heat sinks. So it would be ideal if we had an NVMe drive that had a heat sink on it. And I do have some. Unfortunately, it's only 1 terabyte. I got a Samsung 980 Pro 1 terabyte. Do I have anything else with a heatsink? I have a Western Digital with a heatsink, but that's also just 1 terabyte. Oh, I think I found the perfect thing. I decided to take a risk. I don't know if I was calling it a risk, but Silicon Power has a 4 terabyte NVMe drive with a heatsink on it.
Ooh.
And this should be, it says Gen 4x4. It's the XS70, 5-year warranty. And you know what? Let me look at, go over to our Amazon page. And here's my turn window capture on. All right, you can take a little bit of a break.
Okay.
Because I just want to look this drive up. I know I bought it because it was priced impressively. I just can't remember what I paid for it. And I'm kind of curious what it sells for today. I think I bought it about a month or 6 weeks ago. This is a Silicon Power XS70 4 terabyte. Well, that definitely doesn't look like the heatsink I've got. Huh. I wonder if they sell it with 2 different heat sinks. Because that clearly doesn't look like ours. Kind of wish it was though, because I think we could fit that in there okay without the that little I/O circuit board hitting the top of it. Maybe. It says it's the XX70 with heatsink. Maybe this is considered without the heatsink. with heatsink that says laptop compatible. That's us. That's the one. So what that means is the heatsink is a lower profile heatsink. $212 for 4 terabytes, and it runs at 7,300 megabytes per second on the reads, 6,900 megabytes per second on the writes. That's what I'm talking about. Very good. So the mystery has been resolved. The Silicon Power 4 terabyte XS70. Now, the Beijing drive, that's what, 197 for 4 terabyte Gen 4? Says it'll do to 7,300 megabytes per second, although we haven't seen that out of it. Doesn't come with a heatsink. So to pay an extra, what, $15 to get the heatsink seems like a pretty fair deal to me. Then let me go back to camera 1 here for a second. I think that'd be a nice match. What do you guys think? Also, if you noticed where the M.2 drive goes, below it, like on most mini PCs, is our Wi-Fi card. So if we wanted to upgrade Wi-Fi down the road, this is the same process on how you get in here and swap that out. You just got to take the M.2 drive out. The system is essentially layered. So you've got your Wi-Fi card. Above your Wi-Fi card is your M.2. Above your M.2 is your I/O circuit board. Above your I/O circuit board is this metal bracket, and above the metal bracket is the fans. So we have layers. This is the onion PC, but at least we're not having to gut the entire thing apart. So relatively simple on getting through those layers. I will give MinisForum credit. They could have made that much more difficult. I can't see how they could have made it any easier, quite honestly, if you're going to keep the fans in there. Okay. Grab a colder Gatorade before I continue. Feeling a bit parched. Parched! All right. So this is, I better write down what this is before I forget. These are 8 gigs each. So what I do to make a note to myself when I'm looking for RAM, cross out what that says, and this are 8 GB DDR4 times 2. That way I know they're a matching set. So I actually would not put one of these into the NAS because the NAS only has room for 1, and I don't want to break up a match set. But if I want to upgrade a machine that say has 8 gigs of RAM and I want to bump it to 16, that's just waiting for a new home. So I'll stick it back on the shelf where it belongs. You ready to get back to work, camera girl? All right. And then, you know, it's crazy that they're selling a 4 terabyte NVMe in a egg hangable. Like you're at the checkout count, you're checking out at the grocery store or whatever store, and this could be like an impulse buy just hanging on the shelf. Crazy. It's come to that. All right, we're ready to go back to the close-up camera?
Mhm.
All right, come on over. Okay, put the camera back on me for a second. How's my hair? What I have left of it. All right.
You always look fantastic.
Oh, you always know the right thing to say. Flattery will get you everywhere. All right, let's get this package open. I don't think I was thinking of this machine when I bought it, but I was thinking this would do well in a mini PC where we need space, like a gaming mini PC where we need space. But we also need a heatsink. So I needed 4 terabytes. I needed a low profile heatsink, and I needed it budget friendly. And this checked every one of those boxes. Now, I've not used this particular model from Silicon Power. In fact, I've never used a Gen 4 Silicon Power NVMe drive. We do have some chips on the other side of it. So this is going to be a little bit thicker. And then if you scroll down, if you point down, you can see the Wi-Fi card right there. That Wi-Fi card says, I don't know, can you read it? That's got our make and model of Wi-Fi card right. Just in case you didn't believe your device manager. All right, so now,
Have you ever known it to lie?
well, everybody questions everything nowadays, it seems, and the minute somebody's confused, it's a conspiracy. So we don't have much of a heatsink, but we probably don't need much of one, to be honest. I think a lot of heat sinks on M.2 drives are mostly for show. Heatsink theater. Now we do run up against these pipes, so we gotta be a little bit nimble to get in there. But it's gonna sit flush, so the chips on the bottom aren't interfering. That was a little concern I had quietly to myself. And then put that little M.2 screw back in. And unfortunately, these drivers are not magnetized, so I need to, I wonder if I can magnetize this driver. Wonder if this will work. My little screwdriver magnetizer. You can buy these.
Neat.
Klein Tools makes this one. You can buy
Wow.
them cheaper, but you see it says demagnetize with these holes and magnetize with the top hole. So, is it gonna work?
All right.
Say that works.
Cool.
And you can just recharge it as needed if you feel the magnetism getting weak. Use the magnetic force, Luke.
Use the force, Luke.
Use the forceps. Okay, that's it. Now, I want to run that wire. You see this little plastic piece? That wire went around there like that. And it's important when you're putting it back together, you want the same cable routing to ensure that the cables don't interfere with the fan. And we can clone this one with Acronis onto that drive if we want, or we can do a clean install of Windows. But that's upgraded our RAM and our storage, which means we can start to put it all back together. So we're going to take our circuit board. Just watch these cables. Be gentle. And we can see that this ribbon cable kind of rests on top of that heat pipe. I don't know how good of a design that is, but apparently how they've designed it. These are the screws that came out from here. You can easily cross thread these, so do be careful when you're putting them back in to make sure that they are going in straight. If it feels like one's going in on an angle, you might need to, like that one's clearly on an angle, just take it completely out. Yeah, you can feel it when it's in better, when it's in straight. And I just want to make sure I'm pushing forward on this as I tighten these down. And don't over tighten them. You want them to be firm because you will be plugging items into the front. You don't want this to vibrate loose. And I remember that this ribbon cable was exposed like this. It was not underneath the heatsink, this pipe. So make sure that you route it the same way. Don't try to, quote unquote, improve on that. And then we have the little support bar here, which the fan screws into. So we know these little nubs have to face up. And then you can see there's some cutaways here. So it's obviously got to go in this way. These are things I should have been paying attention to when I was taking it apart. And you can see there's adjustments. You can see that that's an elongated cutout for the screws. And I think my regular screwdriver is going to be the best one for this. And once again, these are very easy to get them started on an angle, and then you could cross thread, which you definitely do not want to do. Normally, I would want to test fire this before I put it all back together, but given its design with the fans and everything, I want all the fans running and in place. I'm just pushing that metal bar against the inside so it's flush, and I'm assuming that that will then allow us to align our fans. And I will put these fans back in the exact opposite order that we took them out. So these obviously have to go down like that. That cable was not being held in by those. I think that actually is for our, maybe not. I was going to say, I think that's for the side panel, but no, the side panel is going to slide in this way. So maybe that does hold the cable back for us. I feel like that's a little bit off. Now I understand why there's no screw in this corner, because it would hit that right there. That's why there's no screw there. Same with that one. So now I understand why there's no screw in those corners. That makes total sense now that I've taken it apart. And I also understand why this bar moves back and forth now, because it certainly seems to me that it's too far this way. So we have to loosen that a little bit, loosen this one a little bit. So I can slide this bar. Okay, so that's where the bar wants to be, right there. I wonder if I can tighten it, tighten that screw through here. Thing's not letting us sit all the way down. Now I'm a little baffled. Seems like the screw sticking up is hitting the bottom of the fan, and it's preventing us from seating the fan flush. So it may be that I just haven't adjusted this correctly. So let me just back that off a little bit on both sides here. Anyway, as you can see, we've got that fan is put back in correctly now. We just want to make sure that these nubs here align. I want to make sure that this cable doesn't go underneath the fan. It runs along the edge of it. You don't want to squish the cable. In fact, I think I need to take this fan back out anyway. Because I think the way we want this to run Yeah, welcome to my world.
I'm actually sweating.
Didn't even know a lizard could sweat. All right, so I think what we want to do. That cable, I think I want the cable to be running on the outside. Secure it in place. Let me just route the cable the way I need it. Huh, well, that's an interesting conundrum. That cable's going to be in the way of the other fan installing if I run it that way. I should have paid more attention to how I took it apart. I guess it could just run below that. Suppose that's the answer. Power cable underneath the fan, underneath, basically on top of the circuit board. That's my guess. That seems to be the only way to keep it out of the way. Yeah, everything is much happier now. So now I can secure the fans. So yeah, you didn't really miss anything. Camera one being on there by mistake. The cable routing is really, really important because these are fans. You don't want the cables to get caught up in the fan after you move the PC around, because let's face it, a computer this small, you're going to be moving it around, even if it's just to dust. And once again, there's no place for us to secure screws in the corners because of that metal support bracket. That one. Again, don't over tighten. Once they sort of feel snug, that's where you want to stop. And if we want, and just throw the foot back on it, leave the side panel off. Make sure that it still boots up and that we haven't broken anything. And then just, you know, while you've got it, pull the covers off of it, you can just make some adjustments to your cables if you want to there to make it look nice and clean. I can't remember where that one was routed. But let's fire it up and make sure we haven't broken anything. How about that? All right, so I'm going to let you take a break. Go ahead and step that way first. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to put this screwdriver away. Okay, so you got to look at the back of Mara's head for a little bit there. Let me get this trash out of the way and put some of this over here. And step around so we can put on. See, I don't want Ethernet because we just want to make sure we can boot this bad boy up. So we'll plug in the HDMI. Got our big old power adapter here. That plugs in down here at the bottom. Uses a standard PC power cord, which we have right here. And I need my keyboard and my mouse. Plug that in right up here. Slide these items over there. And now I can come back this way and take camera one, put it in a corner, like so. Turn on the HDMI input on the capture card and hit the power button. Okay, power button's gone blue on the front of the unit. Fans are turning. As long as the RAM is compatible and is good, and I've installed it correctly, it should give us a power on self-test. If it does not, then it's probably bad RAM, incompatible RAM, or it's not properly installed RAM. But because this is the first time we're turning it on with the new RAM, give it a good 60 to 90 seconds to train that memory. You say, huh, who are you? When did you get here? It's basically under anesthesia the whole time, and it's waking up and realizing things have changed. So let it get reacquainted, and hopefully, yeah, we got our boot screen. But because the NVMe drive we've plugged in there has no partition, no format, obviously no operating system, there's nothing for the machine to boot from. So I'll grab my Acronis rescue disk, and gotta be careful when I reach around there. I don't want to stick my fingers in the fans. I guess I should probably just walk around the table rather than be efficient. I'm lazy. We'll plug this in, plug it in one of the slower ports there. And now when I reboot this, this should find the only bootable device is that Acronis rescue disk. So if I hit Control-Alt-Delete and reset this, it should boot to that. And while it's booting to that, I'll grab my USB to NVMe Silverstone Raven enclosure. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So with the Raven enclosure, I don't need any tools. I can pop it open. I can take the previous NVMe drive that was in there, put that in the adapter. Now I obviously can't put the lid back on with the heatsink where it is. But that's fine. I only need it in there just to do our clone. And it doesn't appear that it wants to boot, does it? Let's take a quick look and see if the LED on the flash drive is blinking or not. Once again, this can be a situation, yeah, the LED is blinking, where you have to just wait it out. In some machines, it can take, you know, a couple minutes before it starts to boot off, before it gives up whatever the boot order is to finally get to the flash drive. So be patient. Now I'm going to kill camera 1 here so we can see the whole screen together. HDMI input, full screen. Okay. And what I want to do is a clone. So if I hit these arrows here, oh, I got to use the right mouse though. Over here, hit these 2 arrows. Tools and utilities. Whoops. Before I do this, I guess I should go ahead and plug my external, go full screen so you guys can see better. We're going to go ahead and plug this in. I want to use one of the blue USB ports back here. And I want it on its own pair. I don't want to share it unless I have to because it could impede the speed. You know, it could take longer. So I'm just going to plug that in. Let's just say right there. I see the light is blinking on the enclosure. Well, it's not on the enclosure. It's actually on the drive itself. It's got an LED right on the circuit board. And then Acronis is going to take a minute to initialize that. So in the time it's taken me to explain all this, it should be fine. Now I can go back over to desktop on this other machine, hit those 2 buttons there, tools and utilities. Oops, tools and utilities, loan disk, automatic, yes. I can't see the next button down here. There we go. Next. So, okay, so what is the source? The source is going to be disk number 3, the drive we just plugged in via USB. The SAN disk is the Acronis rescue disk. That's 1 terabyte flash drive. So this is a 500 gig SSD that's in our Raven SO3 from Silverstone enclosure. Now it's going to look and see where we could potentially put this clone. Where would we want to clone to? You notice our new silicon power drive did not appear in that list because it knows that can't be a source because it's not partitioned or formatted. Here it is, disk number 1, not initialized. 3.639 terabytes, that's a 4 terabyte drive. And the interface is NVMe. We hit next. We want to replace a disk on this machine, so we hit next and proceed. And hopefully this should happen fairly quickly because we really only have an operating system on here. I did not have Camera Girl load up any of the games yet, so she wanted me to do this first. And I didn't want to have to spend that much time cloning over 100 gigs of games, which is what, 1 game? So yeah, it should take about, what's it say, 7 minutes. And so while we're waiting, I can go back to camera 1 and I can put myself in the corner. And then while we're waiting, I'll look in the chat room and see what you guys are talking about. Spencer says the fan cable ran under the I/O ports. Well, and that'll be no big deal for me to reroute it before I put this all back together. I don't think it's really going to make a big difference as far as creating any interference or staticky noise. That would be my concern with regards to that cable routing. But of course, I do always want to put things back the way I took them apart. And I'll just play the video back just to set it back correctly when we're done here. It's, again, a lot of things I do on camera, I don't do the same way when I'm not on camera. For whatever reason, just wasn't paying attention to it, but maybe it's because in the back of my mind, I know I've got it on camera to go back and look at. But I appreciate you pointing that out because if it ran underneath it before, then that's the way I will put it back. Horton said the rain is coming down and the thunder is crazy loud up here in Marlboro, Maryland. Well, O'Brien contributed €2. It said to Marlena, hello, mammy. Thinks I'm his daddy and you're his mammy. All right. All right, that's all done. So the process here, quite simple. You don't have to click OK on here. You can if you want to. But essentially, we'll hold the power button in until the machine shuts off. And we'll go back to full screen on camera 1 so you can see what I'm doing very clearly here. We are done with the clone. Everything should boot now, so we don't need the Acronis boot USB anymore. And we should not need the Silverstone Raven enclosure anymore. But just in case, I don't want to put everything away yet in case the clone for one reason or another didn't work. I should be able to go ahead and plug in the internet to it. And when I turn this on, in theory, it should take us right back to the desktop as it was on the other drive, only with a lot more free space and much faster performance on this new drive, in theory. So let's switch back over to HDMI input 1. And here we go. It's loading something. See if I did it right. Yeah, we're at the desktop. If I go to the yellow folder down here and look at our status of our C drive, I can see we have 4 terabytes. All of our programs and desktop, wallpaper, everything's been put back as it was on the original drive. If I right click on this PC, go to properties, we should see that we now have 64 gigs of RAM. That's a big upgrade from 16. And if I want to test the performance of this new silicon power drive to make sure that we're getting, you know, around 7,000 thereabouts on our reads, I'd like to see a number higher than 7. But if we get to 7, I'm good with that. And 68, we're close. That's still much faster than the drive we took out. And the drive we took out was only 500 gigs, and this is 4,000 gigs. Just let's see, I think that's going to be the number it's going to give us right there, 68, 66. We'll go ahead and let this continue to run. And then what I will do is I'll put camera 1 back up here for a second. Put it in the corner. You can keep an eye on that. These tools away while we're waiting. So now Mara can load up Steam on this and start downloading games. They'll take 3 or 4 hours just to get the game downloaded. And then we can test, I'll have her play those games and see how this Intel discrete graphics card performs. That's what all this is about. This is a very nice machine, and it's incredible when you consider it's about, what was it, like 600, 650, something like that. So you throw another, what, $300, $100 for the RAM and $200 for the NVMe drive, and you've more or less maxed it out, right? Yes, they do make an 8 terabyte NVMe, but I wouldn't put an 8 terabyte in here, not currently. I think 4 terabytes, really the best performance to price ratio you can get right now. And then of course, 64 gigs at 3200 speed, Intel system. That's $90 right now at Amazon for what we use today. And then try and build a desktop equivalent to this for that price, because we're still, even if it's 650 plus, say, another 90, 740, and let's say another 200, 210, put us at 750, 50, 950, $950. I think you'd be pressing 14 to 1500 on a desktop equivalent to this. Of course, a desktop's going to be more flexible in the amount of hardware you can add. It's also going to be physically larger, physically louder. Peter says he wants to see a 3D test. What do you mean a 3D test? Wow, the write speed is as high as the read speed. That's impressive. See those two numbers that high up and so close together. Wow. And clearly it's not being hindered by heat. Otherwise, those numbers would have been way lower when we got to the right side of things. Michael Dane said Amazon's got the 11 brand 4 terabyte SSD. for 140 bucks. That's crazy cheap price, but I got to tell you, one of the worst manufacturers I've worked with in solid state drives is Levin. They were the slowest, hottest drives I've ever used. Now, I haven't used that one, but because my experience with Levin products has been so, it's left me wanting quite a bit. Don't expect much if you buy the Levin branded products. If you have a different experience than me, you decide to buy one and you think it's fast and you think it runs cool, let me know. Okay, so with that, let's go to screen over. I just want to run this test one more time. I'm just curious if I can get that read speed closer to 7,000 or if it's going to stay consistent around 68, 6,900. Give one more chance to impress me here. Ah, that's what I wanted. Okay, I'm happy now. Now, as for like a 3D test, what can we put on there? Utilities. Step around to find I'm using the front USB port, and the other front USB is Type C. So plug that in there. Just going to install it right off the flash drive. That USB port is fast, the USB flash drive is fast, and the computer is fast. A lot of times you'll see me copy the files off the flash drive and load them locally because I want it to run quickly. But if I'm running a system that's a high performance system, then you'll notice I will run it directly off the flash drive because I won't see it. I figure there's not going to be much difference once you get to a certain speed where you benefit from copying it over locally first. Michael Dane said there's another 4 terabyte drive that's 160 made by Silicon Power. Yeah, so just notice if they're Gen 3 or Gen 4 and then what their read and write speeds are. Some Gen 4, it's the same with USB 3. I've seen some USB 3 flash drives that run slower or as slow as USB 2 flash drives. And likewise, if that's important to you, pay attention to what the read speeds are. Look at the reviews. Silicon Power makes both. They make some that are going to be slow for Gen 4, and they make some that are middling, and they make some that are super rocket ship fast. And the same on Gen 3. Not all Gen 3s are going to run at 3,500, 3,600. And price is going to be a main determining factor. Also, pay attention to the warranty. Most of the good NVMe drives are going to have a 5-year warranty on them. All right, let's launch this. We'll run the benchmark. It's preset at 1080 medium. What if we do 1080 extreme? Just because we can. Benchmark. VRAM limit is reached. It seems that selected settings are too high for your video card. The benchmark can crash. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll leave it back at medium where it was. Maybe it sets that based on your hardware. I don't know. Okay. Oh, it's going to tell me that the same thing. Well, you know what? Then I'm going to put it back to Put it back where I had it. Let's go 1080 extreme, run anyway. Let's see what it does. I don't believe it. I think it's going to be fine. The races here. And of course, my camera's got to be over the part that has the information we want, right? So let me move my camera to the other side. You know what? I guess I could just turn the camera off altogether. The reason I don't want to do that is it just tends to, YouTube will start flagging somebody else has my content or I have somebody else's video content because we're running full screen the benchmark. And so YouTube thinks that that's somebody's content that somebody else has copied or stolen. So if I keep my video overlaid on top of it, that won't happen. But that's I'd say that's pretty impressive. I'm going to go ahead and, I didn't realize that that had sound on it. I'm going to turn that sound out. Okay, there's our benchmark results right there, for those of you that are curious. Our discrete graphics card is listed there. Got our 64 gigs of RAM, that's our processor. And of course, this is an older benchmark, so it's seeing this as Windows 10 when it's actually Windows 11. Okay. Okay, so let me go back over to camera 1. And we'll go full screen. Do you guys have any other questions for me? Peter says, thank you for the 3D test. I appreciate it. You're welcome. And that's my, that should be my Samsung 970 that I ordered a couple hours ago that Amazon is already delivering. That I got. I hit the limit, which is 3 of them. 2 terabytes, $79.99 each. Is that what's in there? Yay! I now have some Samsung 970s in inventory again.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Yeah, right. You wouldn't have anything to plug those into.
Find something?
Yeah, I bet. Okay, well, I think that covered everything I wanted to do today. And I guess that means I'm done with this flash drive. In fact, I'll leave it in there because what I'll do is I'll run the disk part command and clean this so that we have it on the bench, or not on the bench, but rather on the parts shelf. So if I need to grab a drive for testing or whatever, we'll use that one. I fully intend to keep the hardware that we put in here in there permanently. Quite a bit of heat coming off the top of it. But yeah, I intend to keep the RAM and that storage drive in there. I was kind of curious how that silicon power drive is going to perform for us. So by having Camera Girl load up her games on it and utilize it, we'll get some feedback. She can tell us what she thinks of it. So thanks for watching. Thank you, Camera Girl. And I'll see you all very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.